A lot of people think buying a decent home in America means spending $500,000, $600,000 or more. And in some markets, that's true, but it's not true everywhere. There's still certain places where you can buy a real house with a yard in a decent community without having your mortgage take over your entire life. And the catch is this: affordable towns are affordable for a reason. And sometimes it is the weather, sometimes it's the job market, sometimes it's the neighborhood variation, and sometimes it's because the town just has not been discovered by every relocation buyer yet. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 affordable U.S. towns that are actually good places to live, not just cheap places to buy a home. And for each one, I'll give you the good, the bad, and the part that I would pay close attention to before making a move. Hey, I'm Mark Bamig, and I help people relocate, buy, and sell real estate in the U.S. and around the world. And if you're seriously thinking about making a move and wanting help figuring out where to start, there is a link in the pinned comment where you can reach out directly. Now, let's start with number 5. So number 5 is Springfield, Missouri. Springfield is one of those places that probably doesn't get enough attention. And it's not flashy, and it's not trying to be the next Austin or Nashville. And honestly, that may be part of the appeal. And if you're looking for affordability, but you still want daily convenience, Springfield is worth a serious look. Now, starter homes generally run somewhere between $180,000 and $240,000. Family homes are often around $250,000 to $375,000 price range. And if you want something newer or in one of the more popular neighborhoods, you may be closer to $400,000 to $500,000. Now, that's not cheap, but compared to a lot of larger metros, it is still a very different conversation. Now, what I like about Springfield is that you're not giving up everything just to save money. You have hospitals, universities, shopping, restaurants, an airport, entertainment, and enough of a local economy that it doesn't feel completely isolated. And that matters because sometimes people move to a cheap town and then they realize they have to drive an hour for everything. Springfield gives you more of a real city feel without the real city price tag. But here's where I would be real careful with Springfield. It is not one big uniform market. Neighborhoods matter a lot. Some areas may be very family friendly and active, and others may not be what you had in mind if you're relocating from out of state and only looking at the prices online. That is one of the biggest mistakes buyers make with affordable cities. They look at the median price and they think they understand the market. Well, you really don't. You have to understand the average, and that is different. You also have to be comfortable with Midwest weather. Now, spring can bring heavy, rainy storms, and tornado activity is something you need to understand if you have never lived in that part of the country. But for the right buyer, Springfield can make a lot of sense. You can own a home, have you some space, keep your monthly payments reasonable, and still have access to the things that most people use every week. And that's a pretty good combination. All right, so let's head south and go to number 4, and that's Florence, Alabama. Now, Florence is a quieter choice, but it has a lot going for it. It sits along the Tennessee River, and it has that old southern town feel. Historic areas, local restaurants, river views, slower pace, and a real sense of community. And this is not the place for someone who wants skyscrapers, nonstop nightlife, or a massive job market. But if you want an affordable town with character, Florence is interesting. Now, starter homes are often around $180,000 to $240,000. Move-up family homes are usually in the $250,000 to $380,000 range, and your larger homes, especially near the river or in more established neighborhoods, can run from roughly $400,000 to $600,000. Now, what makes Florence different from some other affordable towns is that it does not feel like you are just moving there because it's cheap. There is scenery, there is history, there's music, there are local restaurants, and there are neighborhoods with real charm. And for retirees, remote workers, or families who want to slow things down a little bit, that can be very appealing. But you do need to be honest about the trade-offs. So the job market is not as broad as what you would find in other metro areas. Healthcare, education, manufacturing, and remote work may work well for some people. But if you are a very specialized career, you need to research that before you fall in love with the house prices. And summers are hot, And I'm not talking just mild hot. I'm talking really hot. So southern summers, they may not bother you at all, but if you're moving from the Pacific Northwest, New England, or the upper Midwest, it's something that you want to experience before you just commit. Now, still, Florence has a lot of ingredients that people say they want. Lower housing costs, a slower pace, access to water, a historic district, and enough lifestyle appeal that it feels like a choice, not just a compromise. And if you want that mountain scenery with even lower prices, the next one may surprise you. So coming in at number 3 is Beckley, West Virginia. Now, Beckley is not going to be for everyone. But for the right people, it might be exactly what they're looking for. If you want the mountain views, access to nature, and home prices that still feel almost unbelievable compared to many parts of the country, Beckley deserves a look. Now, your starter homes can often be found in the $120,000 to $175,000 range, and comfortable family homes may fall between $180,000 and $280,000. And larger or updated homes can often land somewhere between $300,000 and $450,000. And if you're coming from California or Colorado or Florida or the Northeast, almost any expensive metro, those numbers can feel like a completely different world. But the appeal here is not just the price, it's the setting. You're surrounded by the Appalachian mountain scenery. You have access to hiking, rivers, waterfalls, state parks, and outdoor recreation that people drive hours to enjoy. And if your dream is a quieter life, more space, and less financial pressure, Beckley has a real argument. But this is where the trade-off becomes important. The job market is much more limited than in a larger city. If you're in healthcare, government, education, or you work remotely, it might be workable. But if you need a broad corporate job market, this is not the easiest place to land. Winters can be colder, longer, and snowier than what most southern buyers expect. So this is not a place I would recommend purely because the house prices are inexpensive. And that is not enough. I would look at Beckley if you specifically want the mountain lifestyle. You do not need a massive job market, and you would rather have scenery and space than congestion and constant growth. And for some buyers, that is a very fair trade. Now, let's go in a completely different direction and go to number 2, which is Brownsville, Texas. And most people assume that if you want to live near the coast, you're automatically going to be paying those coastal prices. Well, Brownsville, Texas proves that that's not always true. Brownsville sits near the Gulf Coast, close to the southern Padre Island, and offers warm weather, palm trees, beach access, and some of the most affordable housing you'll find in a coastal area. Now, starter homes there often run from about $170,000 to $220,000, and family homes commonly fall between $230,000 and $320,000. And larger or newer homes in the better locations may range from $350,000 to $500,000. For a coastal market, this is very affordable. You also have no state income tax in Texas, which can be a real factor for retirees, business owners, and higher income households. But Brownsville is not just about saving money. It has a strong local culture, great food, a unique border region identity, and a very different feel from a typical Florida or California coastal city. Now, it is warm, and it is relaxed, and it is culturally distinct. And it gives buyers a way to be near the water without spending what they would in many better-known coastal markets. Now, the trade-offs are real. The summers are extremely hot and humid. Mosquitoes are part of the package, and depending on what you do for work, the local job market may or may not be enough. And this is another town where remote work can change the equation completely. Now, if your income is portable, Brownsville becomes much more interesting. And if you need a very specific job locally, you need to research that before you start looking at houses. And for the bright buyer, though, Brownsville offers something hard to find: coastal access, warm weather, and housing prices that still leave room in the budget. And that brings us to the number 1 place on our list today, and that's Toledo, Ohio. Now, Toledo, Ohio may not be the first place that people think of when they talk about relocation, but if your goal is to get the most house for the money while still having city amenities, Toledo is hard to ignore. Housing remains very affordable compared to most of the country. Starter homes can often be found between $110,000 and $170,000. Solid family homes may fall between $180,000 and $300,000. And then larger homes in the more desirable neighborhoods can range from roughly $325,000 to $500,000. That's a lot of house for the money. And unlike some inexpensive towns, Toledo still gives you access to real city infrastructure. You have hospitals, museums, shopping, a university presence, Lake Erie, parks, and you're about an hour from Detroit, which expands your access to jobs, flights, sports, and entertainment. So this is not just a small town where the only selling point is cheap real estate. This has a lot more going on. But Toledo is also a market where neighborhood selections is absolutely critical. Some areas are quiet, attractive, and very livable. Others require a much closer look. This is where out-of-state buyers can get into trouble. They see a beautiful house online, they see the price, and they think they found the deal of the year. Or maybe they did. Or maybe they found a house in an area that does not fit their lifestyle at all. Affordable cities can offer tremendous value, but they always punish lazy research. And that's why Toledo can be a great fit for the right buyer, but it's not a city I would evaluate only from a Zillow search. Now, you need local guidance, you need understanding the neighborhoods, and you need to match the location to the lifestyle that you actually want. And if you get that part right, Toledo might offer one of the strongest affordability stories in the country. You can own a real home, have access to a city amenities, and still pay far less than buyers in many larger or faster growing markets. And for a lot of people, that is what financial breathing room looks like. Now, here's the bigger point. The cheapest place is not always the best place, and the most affordable house is not always the smartest move. The right relocation choice depends on your income, your family, your healthcare needs, your weather tolerance, your taxes, and your lifestyle, and what you actually want your day-to-day life to look like. Now, I've helped hundreds of families relocate, and the biggest lesson is this. People usually do not regret paying a little more for the right community, but they often regret moving somewhere just because the house was cheap. So if you're thinking about relocating and you want help narrowing down the right areas before you start calling random agents, use the link in the pinned comment. I can help you think through the move and connect you with the right local expert when the time comes. And if you want more practical relocation videos like this, subscribe to the channel. I put out new videos every week to help make you a smarter buyer when you're ready to make your move.